Hello, and welcome to the Youth for Change Town Hall. My name is Elise Dixon, and I will serve as today's technical producer. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Alexia Gallagher, who will kick this event off. Alexia, it's all yours.
Thank you. Welcome to the Boys and Girls Club of America's Youth for Change Town Hall. On behalf of the National Football League Foundation, we're honored to support this special event and resulting initiative. As the world is faced with the insurmountable challenges and continued struggles of social injustice and social division that has long been a part of America's history, Boys and Girls Clubs of America and the NFL have partnered here today to provide a brave and safe space to hear from NFL staff, players, and teens from across the country who are all passionate about these critical issues. We can all agree that the negative consequences of racism can have a traumatic effect on health and well-being of not only today's youth, but also their families and their communities. It is our goal today to first listen openly to each other, discuss the common social justice issues impacting our country, and find ways to take action and create change. Today's town hall also serves as the launching pad for collaboration opportunities across all 32 NFL teams and their local Boys and Girls Clubs. Opportunities could include hosting your own listening sessions, addressing the specific issues of your communities, using your team's social media channels to amplify the Boys and Girls Club's social justice action plans, identifying a player that is interested in social justice initiatives and who wants to get involved personally to support the Youth for Change initiative, and collaborating with the local club to create a comprehensive joint action plan to address these issues and increase awareness and affect real and meaningful change. To kick off today's town hall and serve as the moderator for this crucial conversation, please join me in welcoming the president of the Washington football team, Jason Wright. Prior to this role, Jason was a partner in McKinsey & Company's Washington, D.C. office, where he led McKinsey's global inclusion strategy and recently spearheaded the rollout of McKinsey's anti-racism and inclusion strategy. In addition, he co-founded the Black Economic Institute, a research entity that analyzes the racial wealth gap and is a prominent voice in public discussions regarding racial equity in corporate America. Jason, thank you for being here to moderate this important conversation today.
Thank you so much, Alexia. It's my pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be here with all of you. Welcome everyone else. This is going to be a great experience. Number one, because you're not going to hear from me. You're going to hear with people much smarter and much more creative than me, the teens and from Boys and Girls Clubs around the country and players in the NFL, who I would say are leading a youth movement on this topic. Now, as we jump in, the topic of racism and injustice is not an easy one to discuss. And so the conversations are always messy. They are always emotional. And let's just be open to that. And let's welcome that as a frame through which we communicate today. But while they're not easy, they're definitely necessary. They're definitely necessary. And for me, it comes from two angles. There's one that's a societal angle, and there's another that's personal. Alexia was just mentioning some of the work I did before I came into this role. And a lot of that focused on the economic injustice that exists in our country racially. We'll talk a lot, I think, about criminal justice today, but there's an economic injustice piece that I worked on before. And you all may not know this, but the average Black family today, median Black family today has $17,000 of wealth. The median white family today has $171,000 of wealth. That's a big gap. That's 10 times the wealth in white families that exists in Black families. And if you believe, like I do, that talent is equally distributed across all people of all types, then that ain't right. Then something exists, some systemic thing exists that prevents everybody from achieving at the same level. And that's the societal thing that I want to take on. And that applies to so many other topics like criminal justice, like most of you all are talking about today. There's also a personal angle. And that is the history of this nation has been one that has treated Black folks differently over time. And I love this country. I'm supportive of this country. I support our national defense. I support our law enforcement. But that doesn't mean that Black folks have not had a differential experience here. And even in my own family, from being a descendant of slaves to having on my mom's side, a great relative who was a professor at Tuskegee and had to take to the Supreme Court a case that made it illegal to carve voting lines based on race. They call it gerrymandering. My ancestor did that and got under intense pressure socially to do that. My grandfather on my dad's side started NAACP chapters in East Texas and lost his job for it because the NAACP was considered a terrorist organization at the time. And then when he was forced to farming, a militia, a racially based militia, tried to take the land from them by force with guns. My dad put in jail for peaceful protest in the civil rights movement. Into my own experiences with law enforcement, unfairly being thrown over a cop car and handcuffed in front of all my friends for simply driving through a parking lot and nothing else going on. And grateful that my dad showed up when he did to keep anything worse from happening. And not because of anything except that I fit the description of somebody that might be suspicious, and I can't help that. And so my own individual family history also paints the picture of us being treated differently over time. And so that's what we're here to talk about, is we know that still persists, maybe in different ways today than it did in the past, but where do we go from here? So let's get started in that conversation. First, I want to recognize those folks that are here today. So panelists, please introduce yourselves. Say what team or Boys and Girls Club you come from, and share why social justice is important to you, just really quickly. So let's start with Michael Thomas from the Houston Texans.
Hey, Jason, thank you for having me. And to everyone watching, welcome, looking forward to a great conversation. Again, I'll take this hat off. Mike Thomas with the Houston Texans, play safety, year 9 in the NFL. And I'm originally from Houston, Texas. So it's great to play for the hometown team. But social justice is important to me. And I can probably say it became I became very aware, I guess, woke about it 4 years ago. Was one of the players who took a knee alongside Colin Kaepernick and in solidarity with him and Eric Reed, Kenny Stills when I was in Miami playing for the Miami Dolphins. It became very real to me after that point. And I chose to make that decision, even before it was popular, even before, I guess Nike signed off on it with Colin, before, a bunch of players, decided to back him and, the league decided to address what was going on and back their players. I chose to make that decision knowing that there would be consequences, even for my career, because I thought, what's going on in this country right now is bigger than me. I take back to a specific moment in the summer of 2016. There were back-to-back unjust murders of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling within a 24-hour period. And I made it up in my mind that day that from then on, I was tired of just, talking about stuff. I was tired of just, hashtags on social media. I wanted to do something that was real. I had no idea what that would be. But once I saw my brother Colin take a knee and give his reasons why he chose to do that, chose to protest in that manner in his press conference after that preseason game, I said, you know what? I never thought about taking a knee to protest the national anthem, but every reason he's explaining why he chose to protest is exactly how I'm feeling. So that's why social justice is, that important to me.
Love it. Thank you for sharing, brother. And we'll hear much more soon. Next, Justin Simmons, please introduce yourself.
How's it going, everyone? Justin Simmons here. I play safety for the Denver Broncos. This is my 5th season. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone joining us. Jason, thank you for having me. Social justice is important to me because growing up as a biracial kid, my dad is Black, my mom is white. There was always that struggle of figuring out, man, I don't know where I fit in. I was never white enough to hang out with my white friends at times. I was never Black enough to hang out with my Black friends at times. And so growing up, trying to find my identity, struggling through that. There are different avenues I walked through, some good, some not so good. And it really got to a point very similar to Michael's situation where, he talked about kneeling alongside with Colin Kaepernick. It was that point in time where I really came to try to think and have an understanding of, okay, what's really going on? What's really happening here? And a couple months later, I'm driving, season's over. I'm driving back home with my wife. We get into an altercation with some officers, and they pull us over. And long story short, they asked my wife a couple questions, asked her if she was safe in the car, things of that nature. And it was at that point in time where, and that had happened to me a couple times, but for some reason, that point in time after the kneeling happened and everything that was going on, something about that stuck with me, really hit home. And you look at the cases, like I said, I'm currently in Denver now, the cases with guys like Elijah McClain, and that horrific incident that happened out here. It's cases like that where I've come to realize now that, I have a tremendous and amazing platform to be able to help so many people around the country, especially our youth, to have a better future. And just as Mike said earlier, it's not about me. It's not about what I've already done or what I've already gone through, but what I can do to help our younger generation to kind of break this lifelong 400 plus years of systemic racism and things in that nature that have oppressed so many people before me. And so that's the biggest reason why I'm so big on social justice, man, is to really break that mold, because we're in an amazing position to do so.
Love it. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you. So now we'll get to the real change makers, the creative voices that exist in the Boys and Girls Club network. Reggie and Ariel. Reggie, could you tell us what club you're from and introduce yourself, please?
How you guys doing? My name is Reggie, and I attend the Houston, Texas Teen Club that's in Houston, Texas. So
It's great. Good to have you, Reggie. And Ariel, last but not least.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ariel, and I'm from the Galveston Teen Club, Boys and Girls Club, Greater Houston.
A lot of H-Town in here, Jason.
Yeah, y'all are representing for real. It's good to have you both. Well, let's hop in and start to hear from you. Here's a bit of where I'd love to start. We at the NFL, Boys and Girls Club, we all know that youth advocacy is important, that you all are a critical generation. And so in order to ground our conversation, the Boys and Girls Club in America has created a youth advocacy process to help teens take action in the causes we will discuss today. So just so you're aware, that call for action is the acronym TLC. TLC stands for Think, advising you all, you young folks, to really think about the issues that are important to you. Don't just let the news fly by you, but pause and engage it. The L stands for learn. Learn the facts from credible sources. I promise you, everything your cousin sends you is not true. You need to validate what you get from your folks, but ensuring you get a full and deep understanding of the issue that you are passionate about, whatever catches your attention when you stop and think. And finally, the C stands for create change. You've absorbed, you've learned. Now, how do you move to action? And so as you're listening to the questions we go through today, think about TLC. Think about what you're engaging. Learn, maybe jot down some ideas on other sources you can go to verify. And then start to think about the actions you might think. And so to break this down a little further, this TLC framework is going to be used to help local teams and their clubs create action plans for their communities. So we're going to focus today on a few key topics to get you started there. And we're going to start with social injustice and the impact of racism. So it's dang near impossible today to turn on your TV, computer, whatever it is, and you can not be overwhelmed, not be inundated with images of social injustice or the topic of systemic racism or the impacts of systematic racism. It's a constant reminder that there's work to be done. And so that's what we're going to jump in today. So let's start with Justin Simmons. Justin, how have you and your peers, your teammates, the folks around you, how are you processing the deaths, protests, the social media reaction, all of the news on the injustices against Black folks? How are y'all processing it?
Yeah, Jason, that's a great question. You know, to be completely honest too, I still think we're in the process of figuring out, you know, what can we do? How are we processing this? You know, a lot is asked of, you know, so many athletes from wherever they're from, hometown and things of that nature. And so on top of what's going on, you know, especially speaking to the African American, to the Black community that represents the NFL, you know, a lot of pressure is on a lot of those guys to speak up and be bold and talk about some things that are going on. And it's not always easy to be able to do that and to speak your mind. A lot of guys are struggling with that. And so, you know, a lot of the things that we do is we try and be as open as possible, you know, have that brotherhood connection where we come in and we talk about these things like, you know, before we even have a meeting, like in the defensive back room, you know, something will go on Twitter or social media and we'll see the events unfolded very similar to, you know, the one with Mr. Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. You know, like at many other teams around the NFL, canceled practice, we held meetings and, you know, even in the defensive back room, we had a meeting and, you know, we just opened our hearts up, man. Like, guys, how are you doing? You know, let's put away the X's and O's for a second. You know, what are some things how is this affecting, you know, your lives? Like, realistically, can we go on with the season if something like this happens again? Like, what are the steps you need me to take as your coach, as your mentor, things in that nature? So, Jason, you know, still dealing with those things, and it's tough, but it's definitely something, like you said, they're conversations worth having, and they need to be had. It's not always easy, but they're definitely worth it.
I think that's a really good approach. Just thinking, look, we're still in the process, so it's hard for me to even define it. But maybe, you know, Reggie, maybe you can add to that. You know, what are the ways you all are talking about it? What are the ways you all are engaging in it? How are you all thinking through it, you and your friends?
For us, it's kind of hard because, like you said, it's kind of hard to avoid these things. You know, now that we all sitting at home, it's like it's being portrayed on the TV. It's nothing we can really do but try to at least get our voices out there, try to portray ourselves as young generation of the world, knowing that we have to grow up into the next generation. You guys won't be there for long. We're growing up to be older, and we need to know that, hey, it's time for us to start speaking out. It's time for us to start making that change. And just like during the summer when we was a part of Be the Change You Want to See, I'm not sure if all boys and girls clubs have that, but these are like more effective ways for us as the younger generation to come out, voice our opinion, and let the truth be heard, especially from us. And just like what Justin Simmons said, I'm a biracial kid too. And it's like, you know, I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And my mom always tell me that one drop of black makes you black. And I'm sitting here like, you know, that's not right. You know, that's what they're doing to this African American man. It's not right. And it's hard to avoid that. And I get this every time that I'm trying to voice my opinion. You know, I get this, oh, you're not black, you're not this, you don't understand. No, I understand. It's like, so like I said, you know, it's kind of hard to go out there and portray yourself when you have certain people that will try to stop you, you know. And my encouragement to young folks, you know, don't be afraid to stand up for what's right. Let your voices be heard, even if that means doing what I'm doing, becoming the change that you want to see, even if that means that. Let your voices be heard.
I love that. I mean, I heard a few things in what you said, Reggie. You know, the first is you are taking in the information and saying, I got to do something. I can't just sit here. It's overwhelming. I have to do something to push back against the flow or to feel like I have a positive impact on this. And then another thing is you're processing it very personally. The unique aspects of your own identity, whether it be as someone who's biracial or depends on where you grow up or your own experiences with law enforcement, you're experiencing it in a personal way, which in one sense makes it powerful and maybe moves us to action, but also makes it hard. Let's be honest. That's a heavy weight to carry. And unfortunately, historically, change has fallen on the backs of those who are most oppressed doing it. And that's no different in this moment. And that's a little bit of what I hear you saying. And it's really well articulated, really well articulated. So maybe let's take a step back and say, you know, maybe talk a little bit about how we got here, right? There's a historical lens that goes all the way back to slavery. I don't think we talk about slavery enough and understand how long it lasted and its detrimental impact going forward. That's a discussion for another day. But, you know, even today, as we think about more, you know, the more modern racial history, How are prejudices and biases created? How do we overcome them? How does this happen? How do we get in this situation? Mike, maybe you start on that one.
Yeah, no problem, Jason. I'll touch on that. And first, before I even start, man, Justin, what you said was, was very real. We are still trying to go through everything right now and process, how do we move forward right now? And yeah, I couldn't have said that any better. Like, we're definitely doing that with the Texans as well. And Reggie, to your point about, it's tough when you see what's right and wrong, and then you can't even really speak out how you want to, because then you got other people looking at you like, oh no, man, you're not black enough. And I think Justin even, like talked to that too. I mean, that's sad. And that's kind of to the point where I was going to bring it, Jason. When you talk about prejudice and, biases, first, I think it comes from and starts, like you said, historically, based on how our foundation of this country and how people of color, black people, when we were brought here, like that's kind of where it started. But even in today, it's reassured either by the home or by society. And when I say that, it's okay, if you're at home, you'd say, okay, am I upper class? Am I lower class? Am I rich? Am I poor? Is he from an at-risk neighborhood, or does he stay on the south side? Is he dark skinned, or is he light skinned? Is it yellow bone? Is it, what I'm saying? So there's all type of different biases, prejudice, and it's reaffirmed in society. And things that we don't even like think about consciously, we're creating those prejudices. We're creating those biases every single day. And so you ask, okay, well then that's how it started, that's how it's being reaffirmed, well, how do we grow from that? Like, what's the solution to that, right? I mean, we can say, hey, stop saying these type of words. Like, those words are condescending, those words are derogatory. These specific terms, maybe we don't say at risk, but is that going to create the systemic change we want? I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but is that the right solution? I mean, it definitely starts in the home, and I try to do it my best job. I'm a father. I got a 6-year-old daughter and an 11-month-old son. And anytime I hear my daughter, try to say anything like, "Oh, Dad, we had to stay at a hotel and you made me sleep on the floor because we didn't have enough," I'm like, no. First off, it's okay if you have to sleep on the couch, sleep on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to let her understand that every situation is not going to be ideal or perfect, but that doesn't make you better or less than someone else, right? Just trying to create that change at home, and just trying to create in her mind that, look, everything's not going to always be how you have it at home, and it's okay if it's not. So it takes people at their own home first, stopping those prejudices, stopping those type of biases, and then in society, just doing our part to try to stop it as well. I mean, the Washington football team, getting rid of that name, changing that name, long overdue. Just doing things that are right, even though it might be a hard and long process to do, but doing the things that are right, even when it's hard to do. Like, that's my thing. It starts at home, and you just got to make those decisions.
I love it. And I think you're right to connect it back to the history. I probably jumped forward too quickly because that's where it starts, right? These bias and prejudices were inculcated at the very beginning. They're founded in the economy, right? Like, it happened from jump. And I do think there is something to recognizing the way that those things have influenced us individually. And maybe, Ariel, that's where we pick up. If you think about prejudice and biases and how they're created, and how you see those and how you think about overcoming them, what would you add, Ariel?
I completely agree with Mr. Thomas. It do start in the home, and my mom always tell us, just because this don't happen, it doesn't change anything. You're still the same person and stuff, and it really don't change anything.
I love that. I think what I'm hearing in what you said, Ariel, is your mom, your household was trying to, number one, teach you to think as an individual and evaluate situations of people as they are individuals, rather than making blanket assumptions based on someone's behavior. And I think that's actually at the essence of prejudice and bias, that because I'm Black, if I do something, oh, Black people do this, or Black people are like this, when all of us are just individuals, collections of experiences, the way we're raised, all of those different things. But that label doesn't often apply to other groups. They get to be individuals, whereas folks who are minorities or whatever it is, you're labeled as part of your group or representative of your group, and everybody acts the same. And I think what your family was saying, Ariel, is think. And treat everybody as individuals and take every situation as a situation instead of some assumption about how people are. I think that's really important. That's really, really important. So maybe, Reggie, we go to you with the next question. How, on a daily basis, does being Black enter into your thinking? How does it enter into your thought process or how you make your important daily decisions? Does it factor in? And if so, how?
It factors in a lot, because it's like I was talking to somebody not too long ago about doing something stupid. We was heading to the store, and they wanted to do something stupid. You always had that one group of friends, and I'm just encouraging, look at our skin color. I tell them all the time, tomorrow is not promised. This could be the last breath of air you take, because you already got this setup about us to where people already think that African Americans are hoodlums or gangsters and all that, and it's like the system was already put there to bring us down. We already made to not pass. We're not in here to succeed or make it unless you have talent. And things like this is where you have to start off at home. Things like this is where you have to grow up and you have to realize, you're a young African American male. Your life isn't promised to any of these cops out here. And these things like this, I walk around with a guard on my shoulder or on my back, because I know, like, if I say the wrong thing or if I make the wrong move, Lord knows that could be bullets in my back. I don't know what could happen. And then I just think to myself, it's kind of hard to like move in a certain way, because if you move with suspicion, they're going to think that you're up to something. If you move like you're scared, you're giving them the idea of like, oh, you're doing something that you're not supposed to do. So yeah, it affects in the long run, because I have a brother, I have a sister, and I could be out there with them doing something, and it's just like, please don't mess up. Please don't. Please, we get in this store. Please don't do anything that'll get us in trouble, because then we have to go back to explain that to our mama, and something can happen, and it's so much. It's just so much that pain, unnecessary pain, pretty much. So yeah, it's a challenge walking out the door knowing that, hey, I could never come back home. I don't know if this would be my last day of seeing my mom, and I tell my mom every day, I love you, because I don't know. No one knows the struggles.
So if I put it succinctly, it's your safety, your very sense of safety is impacted, and the decisions you make around what you do to protect your very life are influenced by the fact that you're Black. Mike, what would you add?
Man, Reggie, that's heavy. And I'm not exactly sure your age, but obviously you with Boys and Girls Club, so that's youth, right? For you to have that burden, I mean, that's it's sad, but unfortunately, that is the reality of most people who are of African American descent, or Black and brown people in this country. Reggie, it was no different for me. And to add on to that, Jason, I definitely think about it every single day when I walk out the house. I grew up, and I was the youngest of four, the only boy in my house. Got three older sisters. My mom taught me how to do something, Reggie, Ariel, and to everybody listening. She just passed away, but it still will stick with me for the rest of my life. She said, "Son, you're gonna have to wear a mask." And what that is crazy, but what that meant was not necessarily be fake, but you're gonna have to probably hide some of your emotions. You're gonna be very, very angry at times, and there's gonna be some stuff that happened to you or people or something around you, and you're gonna want to react to it, but you can't. You're gonna have to suppress that a little bit. Not saying again you gotta be fake, you got a brown nose or nothing, but you can't really express yourself like you might see some other people that don't look like you express themselves. Why? Because who you are, your skin tone, the way you look. You might not be one of the tallest dudes in there, the biggest dudes in there, but you have an athletic build, your skin tone. Unfortunately, some people that might come off as threatening. So I make a conscious effort in my whole life, since I was a kid, since my mom told me to wear a mask, of presenting myself a certain way. Yep. And yeah, it's helped me probably like succeed a lot in life. I think it's gotten me to a lot of places in life that I probably otherwise wouldn't have gotten, but I've had to smile a lot of times, Reggie, when I probably didn't have, didn't feel like smiling. It sucks that you can't just go to the store with your friends and, just be young and have fun. You got to consciously think like, nah, like if we mess around and break something, it won't just be, oh my God, look at these kids breaking something. It's like, oh no, they're trying to steal and vandalize stuff. Cops come and it can go south very quickly, right? So trust me, I understand that. And as a young man, I guess call myself young, I'm 30 now, Reggie. But as a young African American man in the NFL right now, even still, when I walk into a store, again, like I told you, I'm built a certain way. Not necessarily one of the biggest dudes in the world, but I'm built a certain way. So when I walk in the store, I have to smile. I make a conscious effort and a conscious decision to myself that when I walk in somewhere, I'm going to smile. I'm going to say hello. I'm going to speak. Again, not being fake, Reggie, but just so that I can let them know they don't have to be, intimidated by me. It's all right. It's all right. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Have a nice day.
Right.
Because I know that just by my stature, my skin tone, to some, unfortunately, I seem threatening.
Spot on. And that ties to history too. There's been a narrative for generations that especially the Black male is dangerous in some way, that our very presence threatens people's safety. And that's where that comes from. And you were trained to guard against that, to soften yourself. The way I experienced the same thing. The way that I speak in the media is not how I speak at home. And there's a reason for that. We call it code switching, but there's a reason that is done, and that's an extra burden we carry. Ariel, what would you add? What are the ways you think about it?
I agree with everything y'all have said, because my mom have taught us some things you can't do out in public and they will take it the wrong way, and you have to be careful about what you do and what you say, because some people can take it completely the wrong way and things can go south. Just like my brother, I have 5 brothers, and I love to protect my brothers, but there's only a little I can do. So all of my parents have taught all of us to be safe. Don't always listen to the officers and stuff, and just don't take things. Like
I know they want y'all to come back home. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They want y'all to come
like
back
be
home.
safe.
I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly. And this is, the essence of, there's a buzzword that it makes a lot of people upset. But it's a word called white privilege. And there's a lot of ways you can talk about white privilege, of people who are not minority having lots of different opportunities that don't necessarily get afforded everybody else. But I think the essence of white privilege is the fact that you don't have to think about your race on a regular basis. The fact that you can go through your day and just be an individual and not think as hard as all of us just described about our behaviors as the essence of that privilege. And ideally, we can move ourselves to a society where that privilege extends to everybody else, the privilege to just be an individual whose actions don't have to be filtered through, how am I perceived as a person of color? Well, let's move to, we're going deep on some of these things. So I'm gonna pick up the pace a little bit. When should an individual take a stand against injustice when you see it? What are some effective ways to do so? Justin, maybe we start with you on this one.
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of when, Jason, I think always. There's never a wrong opportunity to take a stand for social injustices that you may see happening, classroom, neighborhood, in the locker room, wherever it is, man, taking a stand in what you believe in and what to be right, as Reggie said earlier in our conversation, that's important to do that, and obviously the follow-up to that is, and doing it in the right manner, right? You don't want to be, if you're in the classroom and you see something going on, you don't want to be part of, the problem in terms of, speaking out, being rash, being a distraction, but maybe it's you yourself and a couple of your classmates approaching your teacher after class or, whenever is a right opportunity to do so, and be like, hey, we see something going on and we want to know what's the right way to approach this. Cause you may not have all the answers. Maybe your teacher does, maybe a school counselor does, there are always different resources that we can go to be able to get things like that done. Guys around the NFL, taking a knee, bringing awareness, and The crazy part about it is, a lot of people talk about they don't want to see stuff like that on TV. And going back to what you were talking about, part of privilege or white privilege, you don't have to if you don't want to. You can choose to just turn a blind eye to it and keep going on with your life. But the fact of taking a knee and protesting, peaceful protests and things of that nature that I find to be super effective is for the vast majority of the minority community, that is a reality that they have to live. So while you can turn your eye, it's a constant reminder that those guys taking a knee 9 times out of 10 are dealing with those injustices that are happening or see them happening on a daily basis. And, you see guys in jerseys on Sundays, but like, as Mike said, he could go to, you go to the game, you just finish up a game in Houston, he has to go stop and get gas, go inside and then it's just a black man in reality all over again. There is no 31 on the back of his jersey where people recognize him. And so the time to speak up about social injustice is all the time, and always using our resources around us, man. I think that's the biggest key point is using our resources, educating ourselves on fighting the good fight, and always making sure that, we're doing it in the right way.
Spot on. Ariel, when is the right time? When do we do it?
I think any time is the right time. You could be in the classroom and someone say something that is completely wrong and out of line, and I think anyone could speak up and say, no, don't say that. That is completely wrong, and you shouldn't say that. You could be at the beach, Boys and Girls Club, anywhere. Anytime is the right time to speak up and probably educate them. If they don't know, educate them like, no, this is what happened, and don't say that the next time, please.
I love it. Michael, what would you add? Mike, what would you add?
Yeah. I mean, Justin and Ariel kind of hit it. You know what I'm saying? Like all the points perfect. I'll add to it is, Ariel, like that education part. If you can not only speak up, but actually like educate and not in a way where it's condescending, but like really letting them know, like, no, this is not okay because of this. Like, I think that is like has shown tremendous, have had tremendous effects. Because even somebody who's like extremist the other side and don't really believe that there is a problem or something like that, when you approach it that way, and it's for some reason, it kind of almost has like a sense of love from it, it's hard to argue against that. You know what I'm saying? Even if they don't agree with you, it's kind of hard to go against it. So I'll say that educating piece is very important. And then, I agree. Like, there's no real time, right time, Justin. I mean, again, when I chose to do it, I knew there were consequences, you know what I'm saying? But I just said to myself, this is bigger than me. Whatever happens, unfortunately, this is my lifetime and my chance to do something. I got kids coming, that's going to grow up, and I want them to be able to say their dad stood up for something, right? And I'll say for the youth, continue to like be bold, continue to try to be a part of that real change that you want to see in this country, because it's on us and it's on you. That's it.
Reggie, what would you add, my friend?
I'm not trying to like hold up the time or anything, and I don't know if this is related. I have a question.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
I don't know if it's related, but like, when you say any time is the right time to speak up, to me, I feel like you're right, but wrong at the same time, is because, there are some kids and some teachers in this world to where not everybody sees the same.
100.
There are some kids who can't voice their opinion because they get shut down for certain things. There are some people who can't openly express themselves. There are some kids right now, the only thing that really you can do is like basically what I'm doing for any other kids, become the change that you want to see. But then again, there are things to where it's not set up in any other Boys and Girls Club. I'm not sure. I'm just speaking from here. But there are some teachers to where, it happened to me before, you can speak up and nothing gets done. You can voice your opinion and nothing is happening. And just like back then, Colin Kaepernick, when he took that knee, he took it, but he sacrificed his life, the way of life for himself, how to treat certain people, his lifestyle, his way of money. And it just took all of that, and look where we're at now. It didn't work back then, but now over time it's working.
Right.
It's working. And another thing is like, what about the ones who can't voice their opinion? Like, what about the ones that want to, but they can't? They don't have the platform to do it. And when it comes to those protests, I don't think that usually it's not really safe for the younger society. It's not really safe because it might get out of hand. Somebody might get hurt. And just the platform that we're on as kids, I feel like we need to push this more in other clubs. Push it more. Push it. Don't let it like you said, anytime. But at the same time, not everybody does it because they're scared.
Some wisdom there.
That's man. Hold up.
Some
So,
wisdom there, Reggie.
Jace, can it, like I know we don't.
Yeah,
you know,
go, Mike. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
One, Reggie, to your point about like everybody not even afforded the same opportunity as you. I mean, the fact that we're doing this is we have this platform, is being broadcasted on YouTube and stuff. You speaking up as a youth, a person of youth, saying that you want this to be at every Boys and Girls Club or whatever other program, that might be a part of that real change. Every other Boys and Girls Club might hear this and say, hey, you know what? Because of what Reggie just said, we might need to incorporate this if we hadn't before. Mm-hmm. So you using your voice, you just being a part of that change, that might change that. Yes, Colin is no longer in the league. This is the last thing, Reggie. Trust me, that's my brother. There was only about 4 of us in 2016 that they continued to do it the whole season. You know what I'm saying? The trajectory of my career changed. Eric Reed changed. You know what I'm saying? Like Colin, even though it's happened over time, has become bigger alive. No, he's no longer in the NFL, but that platform, because he chose to take that stand, it has ascended him to a level that probably none of us even thought of, right? So again, you can't ever be scared. Yes, there are going to be consequences, real consequences. But you got to decide, is it bigger? You know what I'm saying? Is this big enough to where I'm willing to sacrifice something for it? It might be dangerous. There are going to be real consequences. But every individual has to make a decision. Is this real enough? Is it big enough for me to say that I'm willing to make that sacrifice?
And I think there was an important thing you were hitting on too, Reggie. That's perfectly said, Mike. I think there's an important thing you were saying there in that I can speak up, but is there someone to listen? Is it going to matter? And what I would say to you, to myself, to everybody, is often in the moments where we think no one is listening, someone is paying attention. Someone is paying attention. The people who make change often aren't the ones you'd expect. They often aren't the ones you expect. And you never know who is watching the stand you take in a given moment. And you might not actually ever find out that it was you who motivated somebody until many years later or months later or whatever it is. But that's why I do think there's wisdom in saying, look, am I casting my pearls to swine? Is my voice actually going to somewhere where it's valuable, that people are going to listen? But I would say most of the time, there's a benefit to doing it, even if you don't see it. But I think
another
that's
thing
really
is,
good wisdom there, Reggie.
Another thing is, just like I mentioned, like with the be the change you want to see, like I said, I'm not really sure. And Michael, you said it could open up other opportunities. Here in Houston, I really want to spread this to other clubs across the world. I really want, even if that means if I don't know what could happen, even that means me becoming a president of something like this, just like you are, Jason, just like what you're doing. I want that change to be spread, even if there's any other clubs that might be listening to the stream. I want to be the one to get our voices heard. Like you said, if you do it, there's consequences, and people feel as though I don't know, do I really want to do this? I'm gonna lose everything, but what is the good out of this? And I want my voice to be echoed across to other kids. It may cause you consequences, but there's a good that you're going to get out of this eventually, sooner or later. Just like with me, there's a good that I'm getting out of this. Back then, I didn't want to say nothing. I didn't want to do anything because I was always a shy person, not outgoing, shy person. But now, when I got introduced to the be the change you want to be, and I'm wearing a shirt now, be the change you want to see, in the summer, that helped me, that influenced me. That was the drive that I wanted to do. I felt as people was when I did it, people started coming to me like, hey, I never realized the type of person you were. I always thought you was the one who make jokes about certain things. I didn't realize how mature you were, or how mature of a mindset that you had when you came to talking about certain things. And now I feel like I want to help, and I want this to spread across to any other club, even if they don't have it. I really wanted to get going. Just like you said, this is something, not a consequence, but this is something that helps, this is something that spreads positivity as well.
It's beautiful. I'll move us to the next topic, but to tie this off, I think there is something really powerful in acknowledging that it could cost us something, counting that cost, being aware of it, and then moving forward anyway, because that is the tradition, that is the rich history of activism, and especially around race in this country. All the heroes that came before us faced that same decision and chose to lean into that cost. And so when you're doing that, when you all are making those brave decisions, you're joining a rich legacy. It's damn near spiritual in its feel, that is really powerful. And I believe you have the power of all those who went before you alongside you when you make that decision. But let's pivot. We don't have that much time left, so I'm gonna go real quick through this. I'm only gonna ask a couple of these questions, all right? But we're gonna shift to specifically criminal justice reform and how to collaborate with law enforcement. And I like framing it that way, collaborate with law enforcement. Here's some quick stats. The imprisonment rate, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, for Black males is 5.8 times that of white males. And the imprisonment rate of Black females is 1.8 times the rate of white females. US only has 5% of the world's population, but nearly 25% of the world's incarcerated population. And most of the data on police force usage is too outdated to make real-time decisions on. And I'll add one more to the mix that wasn't on the list that they gave me. And that is that if you go to prison, your lifetime earning potential is immediately cut by 40%. So there's an economic impact too. So Ariel, Reggie, young folks, let's go with Ariel first. How do you react to that when you hear that? How does that affect you?
When I heard that, I was amazed. I mean, I knew that there was a lot of Black women and men in the prison, but I didn't know that many. And I think that most of that is because I think some of them is in there because of they didn't have the right justice. They didn't have the right, they didn't have the right one.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ariel, you're speaking the truth. Like, they didn't have the right representation. The justice system didn't work for them. It might be as simple as they shouldn't be in jail, but they couldn't afford to pay a fine. And now they got to sit in jail. You know what I'm saying? So I understand exactly what you're saying, Ariel. You're right on.
Spot on. Reggie, what would you add, man?
Man, I know I'm overwhelming y'all, but it's just so much that I want to say. It's crazy because like,
Speak on it,
what I was saying, once you walk out of that house, you have a target on your back. Your skin color is a target. And it's sad because, just like you said, the system is set up to not help. It's not for us. We're going to fail regardless. It's like, even if you don't do anything, if you don't have that money, that right need, you're going to jail. You don't have that right lawyer, you're going to jail. Like, it's nothing you can do. And statistics is right. You're right. You're totally right. You're totally right, Jason. It's hard to not see that because the sentences are different. Let's just say I could walk in the store and I could steal something right now. And there's a white boy walk in the store right now. I guarantee you, he probably get what? Just an example, a day in prison. I might get a whole year, 2 years in prison just for doing that. And it's just like, the system is set up to fail you. It's not for you. It's just not. And then I'm not sure if this is what you said at the beginning. How can we help partner ourselves with law enforcement? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Why? Because I'm not trying to put down in any law enforcement because we need those law enforcement. But at the same time, we don't know who's good and we don't know who's bad. I seen the movie with Tyrese Gibson in it. What is it? Black and Blue. When she was a cop. They say once you put on that badge, once you wear blue, you're part of blue. Anything that goes outside on that world is not your business. Once you're wearing blue, you're wearing blue and you stuck in. So we don't know who is good. We don't know who is bad. There's good cops out there and there's bad cops out there, but we don't know because 9 times out of 10, a cop is going to always side with a cop. And
this is great. I like this. Let's get a different perspective. Because I have a different perspective than you do on this one, but let's hear from Justin and Michael, because I think teams are starting to work through how do you get engaged on criminal justice. So maybe Justin, we'll start with you. How do we get engaged with the criminal justice system, and maybe speak on working with law enforcement versus not?
Yeah, I think I also share I would say I share a different sentiment on that, the idea of building a better relationship with law enforcement. And I only say that because I'm starting to educate myself a little bit more and talking with law enforcement and things of that nature. I'll say it like this, like even in the case of Elijah McClain, out here in Denver, Colorado, I won't get into the specifics of his case or anything like that. But long story short, right now, the chief of police in Aurora is fighting off the union because, they're talking about trying to rehire the cops that were fired in that case. And what I'm saying is, like, she's a product of someone that is trying to do right by her community. Unfortunately, there are the unions that have special protection, and justifiably so. There needs to be protection for law enforcement, but there also needs to be more accountability. And I think that is the direction where we can help bridge that gap of, okay, you guys have the protection thing pretty down packed. I don't even have time to get into all the police unions and every rule and arbitration and everything that goes into that. But the thing that we do need to see more of is the accountability factor. And we as a community hold more power than we think we do in pressing accountability towards our police precincts and things of that nature. And I will end on this, Reggie. The Denver Broncos organization, players, coaches, we actually passed a bill. It's called SB 217 in Colorado. We passed a bill that actually specifically holds police accountable. We're talking about you can't rehire police with pretty much a bad resume. And it goes into specifics about that. You can't use lethal force when detaining certain individuals when under arrest, and the list goes on and on and on. And those were things passed just because players and coaches pushed for it. You know what I'm saying? Those weren't passed because police had a change of heart, or the precincts had a change of heart and wanted to see things that in that nature happen. So while I do agree with some of the things, I think community holds more power than we think. Man, we need to be in those meetings. We need to really focus on, we talk about voter suppression. We really need to focus on who we're electing to be chief of police, who we're electing to be a governor, senators, things in that nature. So I like, this is a topic I get into all day. So I'll refrain from talking too much, but it's really good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's good, Justin. Mike, speak on it too.
Right. We saved this question for last. You know what I'm saying? We definitely don't have enough time for this. So I'll try to be as concise as possible. One, I agree with Justin when it comes to the part of we as a community and the trying to hold law enforcement accountable. We have more power than we think. You see it when we as people took to the streets. We as the community took to the streets protesting and stuff. The country took notice. Congress, the Senate, they had to act. They were forced to act. They were forced to meet about it and say, hey, we need to come up with something, some type of bill law that we need to write up and try to create some change, because these people, they mean business and they're not going to stop until we do something. Now, did it actually work 100%? No, but that's the type of power the people in the community have, right? So we need to continue to try to do that to hold law enforcement accountable. We with the Texans are doing the same thing, Justin. When it comes to try to pass the George Floyd bill of Texas, we're doing the same thing, advocating for that, for law enforcement accountability. But the last part I was going to say, and I'm interested to hear Jason's perspective on this. When I chose to take a knee, I made mistakes. I partnered with some of the wrong, companies, partnered with some of the wrong people, did some things right. But one of those things was, it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to bridge a gap between the communities and the law enforcement and stuff like that, thinking like, oh yeah, that's the real change we need to see. But ultimately, over the years, I realized that maybe those ride-alongs, maybe, like having those, town hall discussions, that might not be the real change. The any systemic oppression or any police brutality. So hear me when I say this, I'm not necessarily supporting, just ending any type of relationship with law enforcement, but at the same time, I don't believe that, all we got to do is just have a better relationship with them, and that's going to, be the solution. Like, no. That accountability and trying to attack or address the system that's in place that allows them to have any type of, unnecessary force or, any type of excessive force and no accountability to it. That's what needs to change. Either be, eradicated, done away with and start a new system, or that needs to be changed when it comes to accountability.
No, it's a great point. Yeah, I'll give my perspective too. I think you need both external pressure on the system via the things you're talking about, policy change, protests, accountability measures, all of that. You also need folks inside both law enforcement agencies, police forces, et cetera, who are embodying that change as role models and propagating that across other folks, because change happens both outside in, but most fundamentally inside out. So if I think about something like this, and I'll take an empathetic perspective, even as someone who's been on the wrong side of law enforcement encounters due to race, let's take an empathetic perspective and recognize that if you don't have proper training or police officers who are aware of racial bias, who understand how it can affect your thinking, are willing to speak on it from within the organization and help inform better training for folks, that when they walk into a situation, they don't immediately go into their animal brain and respond out of racial bias and end up shooting somebody that doesn't need to be shot. But that happens with external pressure, saying things need to change in training, procedures, et cetera, but also with people inside who say, I agree with this too. I want this profession to be the proud profession that I joined it for, so I'm gonna carry this forward. I think we need both, at least to have change at the pace I wanna have it. At least for me, I want it to happen quickly. I don't wanna wait that much longer. And I feel like we need it both within and without in order to do that. But every place is different. Every city is different. Every police force is different. And so I think there's not necessarily one recipe. And no matter where you start, I think the point is to start. I think the point is to start and to be open to partners, people coming alongside you that you might not expect. I guess that's the guidance I would give. All right, so we are already over time. There were many other things we wanted to walk down. We could go on this one for days. I just want to thank everybody for joining. Reggie, Ariel, the wisdom that came from y'all as young folks, it was profound. It was profound. It challenges my thinking. I mean, some of the things you said were very provocative. It pushes me to continue to evolve my thinking. Mike, Justin, thank you for being role models. Just like I was talking about, you need change from within and without, and you are embodying what we actually need within the league and within our ecosystem of professional athletes and folks involved with sports. And so I'm deeply appreciative. And then I want to thank the Boys and Girls Club and the league for also doing their part in role modeling. So as we wrap today, I encourage you all to stay connected. Club teams, there'll be some additional opportunities for y'all to get started now with TLC, Think, Learn, Change, so that you can start making a difference today. 8 activities that will be in the TLC process that you'll go through at your clubs. And for each activity you complete, you and your club will get entered to win prizes, because we always got to lace you down. Apple AirPods, Beats headphones, etc. If you complete all 8 activities, and you and your club will be entered to win a big tech prize pack. And that contest kicks off today, runs through November 20th, 2020. So get on it. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear your masks, keep pushing for change, and have a great evening.
Take care. Thank y'all.